We're the indie project Bee and Theo, and we've been living and travelling the world in vans for the past 6 years. We're currently renovating an abandoned stone barn in Portugal to turn into a beautiful tiny home for us and our cats Ginjey Bear and Furrnando. Follow our journey from the very beginning as we document the whole process of creating an off-grid home. Good morning and welcome back to another instalment of our Portuguese barn conversion series. It's another exciting one. We've got a lot of exciting stuff happening today, and actually I'm just heading down to do the first exciting thing. Time of year is my absolute favourite when it comes to harvesting the olives, because I absolutely love eating tons of these things. They just taste amazing. I didn't used to like them, but now they're my favourite. And a little secret, Theo hates olives, so I get to eat all of the ones that I harvest and brine just for me. And over the years I've actually developed a really good and simple brining method that works. In a couple of months I can be eating these delicious olives, and actually it's super duper simple. So as you saw, I was slicing them so they're nice and ready to now be covered with a brine mixture, which is just salt and water mixed together. So I'm going to pour this in and cover them all up. And you might be wondering why on earth I'm doing it, because these olives look edible right now. Olives off the tree are insanely bitter. They're disgusting, really gross. So what this does is it leaches out this bitterness, and you have to do it a few times. The water has already changed colour, but it's basically going to go black over the next 7 days. So I'll rinse it out, put another brine mixture in, and then leave it for a few weeks. Then repeat it again and leave it for maybe 2 or 3 months, and then after that I'll give them a little taste test and they should be ready. So these need to now go into a cold, dark place for a week, and then the brining process can begin.
So the time has come to do some cooking. It's a lot chillier today. It's one of the coldest days we've had so far, so it's really nice that we're working inside the barn. It really feels like we're very close to moving in, which is exciting. But down here, we've got a bag of cow viva. Pretty sure that translates to something like quicklime.
It does, because below it says English
quicklime. So we got our quicklime, cow viva in Portuguese, and it's a big bag. And this bag should paint the whole entire place that we've got here many times over, and we should still have a lot left. So it's a very affordable way of doing things. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to slice a little hole into here so that we can get a little sample out, because what we're going to do is we're going to do a sample test piece before we do the whole walls, just in case there is any issues, any problems. We want to make sure that everything's spot on before we go crazy and paint the whole place. So like I mentioned in the last video,
it's brilliant white.
It's pure lime, so it's bright white, but it comes out a lovely matte, which is what we like. We don't want no gloss around here. So that should be good. We can reach in now, get our sample, and then we can do some cooking.
Oh, I'm excited and terrified. Now, because I have a Bachelor's of Science degree, it's down to me to do this chemistry. No, I do have one, but it's got nothing to do with this. But I'm actually really excited because we've both watched loads of videos about how to do this. It's a very simple process. but pretty scary because it involves high temperatures, doesn't it?
It's simple, but it needs to be applied right.
It does. So the first thing I'm going to do is put the PPE on, because this stuff, you don't want it in your eyes, you will go blind, you don't want to inhale it, you don't want to get it on you at all, really. So we're making a really small amount, like Theo said, so we can test it to make sure we're comfortable with what we're doing, we know how to get the right mixture and see how it looks on the wall before we cover everything in it. So enough talking, I'm ready to rumble.
So the first thing Bee is going to do is reach into the bag of lime and get herself a nice cup of pure lime, level it off. And the reason we're doing this is so that we know the amount. So for the next mix, we know that the first mix worked and we can copy the same formula. So Bee has just put the lime into this small little bucket. We're just using a small bucket for now because we're only mixing a small amount. We've got some fresh, clean water, and then we're gonna put that into the bucket. Yeah, go for it. And there's gonna be a bubbling and a chemical reaction, and it boils at a very warm temperature. And Bee's just gonna mix it around to get the right consistency and keep adding water until we get the right consistency. And the consistency we want is like a thick paint. So you can see now the chemical reaction has started, and there was some definite heat coming off that. So Bee has just done the mix, and it really is looking like a paint. So you can see that on the paint brush.
It's steaming.
It's still hot. So if I put my hand on the outside of the bucket, that is really warm there. And that's a good thing. Apparently putting it on warm, apparently it bonds to the wool better. I've wet the wool down over here, as you can see. I've really soaked it. That's been like that for probably 5 minutes, and it's not sunk into the lime, so that's a good start. And then Bee's just going to apply a bit onto the wall and see how it looks. And it should go on transparent, so you've got to be careful not to go over what you've already done. That's what we've been told. I'd do the corners, so I'd just do a small bit. You don't have to do that whole patch because we're going to have to go over it tomorrow. You're meant to leave it 24 hours to dry, so I would just do a small, probably half a foot. Yeah, or maybe a foot from the top down. Yeah, exactly. Go for it. See what happens.
Okay, so it is tiny transparent, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's a little bit transparent. And you're meant to work with the paint. So basically you don't just do a bit and then move over to somewhere else. You do a patch and keep that patch moving and keep agitating this so that this doesn't dry up. You want to keep stirring this so it doesn't dry up. So that's going to be my job, will be paint. But already that's looking really good. So the Limewash was a massive success so far. We're going to check on it in the morning and throughout the day and see how it goes, but we think it's worked. So tomorrow we can actually Limewash this whole room, and it's crazy to see how white it is compared to the walls already, because we've just been saying that this room's like really pale already, but to the white down there, it's not at all. It's so much darker, so it's really going to brighten up the room. It's going to make it feel even bigger than it is. But right now I need to get on a task, and I know you guys are going to be upset. It's more pointing. I'm not going to call it pointing, I'm just going to call it
touches.
Finishing around the door, because I basically need to seal the door in now. It's been sealed in with foam. I need to point around it. I said pointing again, but anyway, we've got a new tool so that we can do mixes
For the paint.
because we're going to do like quite a big batch to cover the whole room.
Oh, I've just realised what you're doing. Are you going to make your pointing mix with that?
Yeah.
I've only just realised. I'm like, why is he showing that now?
So I'm going to try this out to do a mix because I don't need to do a very big mix. So there's no point using the mixer. I might as well just use this device.
So what is this device?
It's like a big whisk.
This is what they use in massive bakeries, isn't it, to make cake batter?
Exactly, yeah. So there we go. That fits on an extension on the end of there, whisks around, and then we can get our mortar nice and crispy.
Did that clean it? No way.
Sponge it off now. Good tool.
That's good.
Very useful.
Let's see the mix. Ooh. They're going to try out your new tool with this.
Yeah, so people have been hounding me, you guys have been hounding me to a next degree, telling me that I should be using one of these. This is the only one I could get my hands on. It's a little bit flimsy. It's got a plastic nozzle and I've cut it so it's a bit thicker. So hopefully the lime will come out of there, but this is designed for making cakes. So today's literally all about baking, building products. The problem I've got with using a normal pointing key and why I am really hopeful that this works is I've got to go around a really narrow area of the door. Now if I do that with a pointing key, it's probably going to end up a little bit messy. It's going to take me a long time. So hopefully this will work. If it doesn't work, I'll just have to resort back to using a pointing key. But a lot of you guys told me that I should have used one of these on this wall. The problem is the thickness of the walls. So the gaps that I had to fill were like, probably some of them like 6 to 10 inches deep. So if I used one of these piping bags, I'd spend the whole day just filling the piping bag and then I'd squeeze it out into the gap and you wouldn't even be able to tell.
Well, we need to see if they'll even squeeze out, because every time I've tried, lime doesn't squeeze out, honestly, not like cement does.
Lime is a funny product and it requires a lot of attention. It just like, with cement products like this wall, if it was a cement render, we could have just literally rendered it in cement and painted it pretty much a couple of days after, probably it would have been fine.
Paint as well.
But with lime, it's like you got to use lime washes, and it's definitely a long way of doing things. But I believe, and I know Bee believes, that it's the right way to restore these buildings back to how we want it to be, back to how it originally was. Lime wash was used all them years ago for a reason. So anyway, let's get to this.
These, you fold the top bit over your hand, hold it in your hand like this.
Right.
And then you fold it over your hand, see?
Okay, like that.
Yeah, there we go. Just like a proper baker.
I mean, I've got massive hands.
It's not going to
I'm not going to do that. You know what I need? A little, I need like a little rig so I can pop this on it.
You need a little spoon so you can just spoon it in. I really hope this works.
Let's try that.
Okay, so twist the end so it's all nicely sealed in. Look at that.
Who wants a lime cake?
Me. Oh my god. How hard are you squeezing that?
And there we go.
It won't come out.
It does not budge at all.
Could you try taking the little nozzle off the end? Would that work?
Well, then that just defeats the point, doesn't it, really?
Oh man. Yeah, it's not gonna.
So there we have it, and that is why I
Myth
didn't use
debunked.
a cake bag, and it just doesn't work. Like lime is really weird. It's not plasticized like you can plasticize cement. Cement, you can get it really nice and fluffy, and if I whisked this and got it right to the perfect consistency, maybe it would come out a little bit, but this is the consistency that I need to go around the door. So
It looks really constipated.
Whilst Theo's pointing around the door, I'm finishing up with the masking off of the beams. I did a lot the other day, but there were some bits that I hadn't got round to doing yet, so they really need to be done today because we are planning on lime washing tomorrow if our little sample down there goes to plan. So I'm up here getting it all done. I've got about 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I've got about 12 beams left to go, so I better get cracking because it's already 3 o'clock and I don't want to spend the whole day doing masking, even though it does take forever.
it's going good. I've done about 1.5. That doesn't make sense.
You done 1.5 doors?
I've done one side and I've done half of the other.
Oh yeah, I can see.
Completely changed the look of the door. It's like really feels like it's part of the property now. That foam looks disgusting, so I'm glad that's gone. And we're thinking we're going to keep the pointing natural around the door frame, just like this kind of tone, because I think like white around a really dark
Too much.
door, it will just be, it won't look good. I've just finished around the door inside and outside and it looks so much better. I'm going to move on to something else. Bee's going to carry on. She's got, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 beams to mask off.
10? That doesn't make sense because I said I had 12 earlier and I swear I've done way more than 12.
You've been slacking.
I'm horrified.
But the whitewash seems to be getting
Let's
whiter.
have a look.
I don't know if it's just our imagination, but it definitely looks whiter.
It does. Oh my gosh, look at that.
And that means tomorrow, this is all going to be white.
Well, we need to wait and see how that looks tomorrow first. but
I
it probably
think
will.
we're probably going to have to do 3 coats. So we do 1 coat per day. It'll take us 3 days. And then we can start doing the floor
But
once we
still
get the
have
wood.
more
But
prep to
let's
do,
not get
so-
ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, what are you going to do next? Because we've got more prep to do.
I've just got a little bit of cleaning to do. So remember in the last video I cleaned off the stones and they came up really nice, but there's just a little bit around the edges that I couldn't get to with the wire brush that I want to clean off. I'm a perfectionist. It's going to be worth it in the long run.
So we've now got Theo over there doing the final clean, and we've just moved the scaffolding over here so I can finish the 9 beams. He counted wrong, it's 9. But yeah, they're pretty high up. This is the taller side of the barn, so the scaffolding is a must, can't do it without it. I'm not 20 foot tall. I think that's how tall you probably have to be. So I hate this job. I officially hate it. I've spent way too long doing masking, but preparation is key. Once it's done and it makes life easier in the long run. So I'm hoping to have this done hopefully within the next hour, and then I can say adios to masking. I'm so happy. I'm done, finally. This has been the longest masking taping I've ever done in my life. And hopefully the last. Hopefully this is the last. It's all done. I'm ready to rumble. We're gonna have a really nice dinner. And tomorrow morning we're gonna wake up and we're gonna just double check the test down there, and then we're gonna paint this whole room.
So it's a new day, and the first thing I need to do is really wet down this wall. And it's very different to using traditional paint. You would never wet the wall down before you apply paint to a normal wall if it was used with like a cement-based plaster. But for lime, you want to get this wall as wet as possible, really soak it so it's really absorbed the water into the wall, and that means the lime wash that we're going to add to it will really set nicely, and it won't dry out too quickly and go really powdery. The test that we did yesterday came out brilliant, so we're really happy with it. I think we're probably going to have to do 3 coats of this whole building, and it's going to look amazing. Look at this, it's a building site once again. Bee is just mixing up and agitating her lime, ready to do this wall. And she's covered this wall down here on the gable end, and on top of the mezzanine you can see has been done. And we've gone for a thinner mix to begin with. We thought it was better to layer it up than put it on too thick. You can see our tester down there we put on a bit thicker yesterday, and we decided it's better to layer up than go on too thick to begin with and cause some problems in the future. So that is what we're doing. Bee's doing an amazing job. It's not the nicest stuff to work with because you will die if you get it in your eye.
Not death, but blind.
But she's doing a good job. We've got a mix over here, as you can see, so we're just scooping out of that every time we need a mix, and things are really cracking on. It's exciting times. So in some of the walls we have a few hairline cracks, which is really common with lime renders and plasters. It's just part of the process, and the great thing about Limewash is that gets right into the cracks and it fills them in. So it's brilliant to do it at this stage of the project, and Bee is just making sure any small hairline cracks that she sees, she just fills in really nicely. And that's why we've gone for a slightly thinner first coat, because we really want a great coverage. And then with a lime wash, you're meant to build it up in coats. It's not meant to go on super thick straight away. Back in the group. Get back in the groove again. We're gonna get back.
This process is actually quite fun. I was really scared and apprehensive, wasn't I?
You was, but you're doing a good job.
Yeah, last night I was sitting there thinking about it, and I'm just like, I know I want to do the whole room in a day, so that was the plan. And then when we came in here this morning, it was a bit like, oh, there's so much to do. But after I did the first wall, I've really got into the flow of it, and I know the best way to do it, the best brush strokes and stuff, and I'm used to working with this interesting texture now, so it's going well. It goes on quite nicely, and I'm looking at the first wall I did now, and it is definitely changing over time, because that's about 3 hours old now. So
calcifying.
Yeah, it's calcifying, so I'm looking forward to seeing how it's going to be tomorrow. It's definitely going to need at least 3 or 4 layers, but it's going to look stunning.
I can't get over this. Look at the difference. That is kind of a pale white. I can't wait when it's like a bright matte white. It just looks beautiful, and we can take the masking tape off and see the exposed beams. And one of the most exciting things for me is getting all this boarding off and putting proper lovely wooden flooring on here that you can see from underneath, and the exposed wooden beams. And I can't stop looking at that pointed wall. Blood, sweat and tears went into that, but it was well worth it. The sun is about to go down. It's been a long day, and we're on to the last wall. And Bee's excited, and you can see behind her now that that wall has started to calcify, and it's gone a beautiful like matte white. It obviously needs a couple more coats for sure, but it's quite an interesting process, because when you put it on, it does look really rubbish. What was the word that you used? It looks like translucent.
Yeah, it's translucent.
So it's translucent, so it doesn't look quite right when you put it on, but you need to make sure that you don't keep going over the same bit. And then when it dries out, it just goes white, and it's just wonderful. Look at that. Really is coming along nicely. I can't wait. I know I keep saying it, but pulling the masking tape off is probably going to be the most satisfying thing ever. And look at the light from the veranda. Isn't that nice? Looking over the building site, that soon this area is going to be landscaped, and it's going to match really nicely with the barn. It's a bit loud today because the Jenny's been on all day, but not much we can do about that. We need to power all of our equipment. The chickens are in bed. We need to just keep going. And I know it looks like Bee is doing all of the work today, but I've been a very good labourer. I'm sure she would agree.
Yes,
I've been running around, getting bottles of water, getting fuel for the generator, and spraying down all of the walls at the right time to make sure they stay wet for when she actually puts the paint on, because you don't want this paint to just be absorbed into the lime. So it's been a long day. It really has. It's been a long process, this whole barn conversion, but I tell you what, it's long days like this where you sit back and you look at the work and you really appreciate how far you've come. 7.5 hours later.
7.5!
Bee's lost the plot. We're still going strong. Bee has managed to do it all the way up here. It's just a technical part that's slowing us down a little bit. You got to get it right and not get it on the stones. And we've just got that bit over there to complete after this side. And then we can call it a night. The white walls are already starting to bounce the light around, which is amazing. And I forgot to mention, I think, about the Limewash being antifungal and antibacterial, so it's also another good reason to do a Limewash. It means that it will keep the mold away if there is any damp in the wall. So it's just a really old school process, and to be honest, we're having a lot of fun using it. It's coming out really nicely. Like I said, it looks a bit sketchy at first, but when it calcifies, it looks so good. Beautiful matte white paint. So I think I'm gonna end the vlog there. You're gonna have to wait until the next one to see how it turns out. We're both knackered. It's pitch black outside. Probably got another half an hour, 45 minutes, and then we are done. Good night, and we'll see you on the next video.